Okay, here we are, almost through. We've got two more parts, F and G. So let's go. More good stuff here. Um, okay, so you already know the answer to this question. I truly believe that everyone needs a personal business for life, as my dad, Jack Firestone, said many years ago. Here's a former student of mine, Ryan North, actually climbing a tree. And he was a student of mine, oh my gosh, it's got to be the early 2000s, so, probably 14 years ago. And Ryan is an IT guy, computer whiz. He now lives in Toronto. He's done his master's in computer science. And everybody in my class had to start a personal business for life, or at least some kind of business in the 13 weeks that I had them studying entrepreneurship with me. This is when I was at the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University, and later on when I was at the Telfer School of Management, I did similar kinds of things. So Ryan came to me and said his idea for a startup was to do a comic strip, and it's called quants.com. You can still find it. You can see the URLs down here, www.quants.com. That was actually a URL that I had that I gave him to start this business. I said, Ryan, I thought you were an IT guy. And he said, yeah. I said, can you draw? You're going to start a comic strip? He said, no, I can't draw a lick. So what he did was he created this comic strip called Dinosaur Comics with 6 panels. You can see them here, six panels, with the T-Rex, the big green monster there, and then two smaller female dinosaurs here and here. And nothing changes day to day other than the words. So the dialogue amongst the three of them goes on every day. And so when you first look at it, you kind of go, what the heck is the big deal about this? It's been going since 2003, I think, and it's been very successful. And when you read it day to day, you realize there's this quirky, brilliant mind behind the interplay between the three dinosaurs. So I think at some point he's going to apply to the Guinness Book of Records for the longest published comic strip ever, where nothing ever changes, other than, of course, the dialogue. So I think this is just clip art that he uses, and it never changes, right? Just the dialogue. And he sells an incredible number of T-shirts and books. And when he goes to Comic Con, if you know what Comic Con is, when he goes there, he's like mobbed. He's a tall guy. I think he's like 6'8", good-looking young man, now in his 30s. But just mobbed, and he supports the site. I think they make about $10,000 a month net from sale of merchandise and books. Things like I'm made of meat, or your family is made of meat, your whole family is made of meat, and then this corny one down in the corner here, ladies, please, one at a time. That's typical Ryan. Now, how much did it cost Ryan to start this business that makes about $10,000 a month? I show him reserving a domain name for 12 bucks, but in actual fact, I did that. Then some web hosting. He needed some web hosting, and he needed a little bit of color printing. I'll talk about that in a minute. And he actually won the business model competition. We used to run a business model competition in the class, and I think first prize was 500 bucks. So his cost for starting up this business was a negative $440. So pretty inexpensive personal business for life. And what did he do for marketing? What he did was he printed green T-Rexes on cardboard, and he's very tall, as I said, and he could go around Carleton University and he could put them, up, on the ceilings, and he could reach places that no one else could reach. And it had this URL, which you can see here, poo.ca. And in fact, if you still put poo.ca in your search bar, you'll be taken to quants.com, right? Easier to spell than quants.com. So there you are in a Prof Bruce lecture back in 2003, 2004. You're a little bored, and you look up at the ceiling, and you see this crazy cutout and this, kind of little bit oddball URL, and you say, what the heck? And so students were checking it out. That's the only marketing he ever did, and he's got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of readers now. So pretty inexpensive marketing budget as well. After Quants.com got going, Ryan did some other things, and I'll talk more about this, but he launched a project in the early days of Kickstarter, which was To Be or Not to Be, a choosable path adventure. So he had his own riff on Shakespeare. And he tried to raise $20,000 on Kickstarter, but he missed that goal by a whole heck of a lot. He ended up raising $580,000 to produce this choosable path adventure book, where you could actually choose the ending, to be or not to be. right? You could actually have some influence on the plot. It's kind of sacrilege to change Shakespeare, but whatever. People seem to like it, and he had 15,352 backers for this, and he raised $580,000. I think at that time the highest amount ever raised for a publishing project on Kickstarter. And then a few years later, because of his tech background, he launched this advertising engine, ProjectWonderful.com. It's still going, and it's basically a democratic advertising engine. So instead of you, if you have you're a content creator, instead of you having to determine what is the price you're going to charge somebody to run a banner ad on your site, advertisers, much like Priceline, advertisers get to set the price they're willing to pay, and then they compete. It's been very successful. And he used the huge audience from Quants.com to launch it. And, yeah, sorry, going back here, yeah, it was profitable within 10 days of launch, Ryan told me. So that's pretty good, and it's very profitable for him. So he from his personal business, from life, all kinds of other opportunities evolved. This is another one. This is another former student of mine. This is Jennifer Schweers. You can see her here out in Vancouver or wherever she was, but she is in Vancouver. And she got laid off in 2008, 2009 from her job working in, I think, banking or finance. And she hated working. She always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so she started her own photography business, Urban Lens Photography. And she, when you're doing wedding photography and other high-end assignments, you can't just show up with your iPhone. With all due respect to Apple or Samsung, you just can't show up. You have to have proper equipment, and she needed about $40,000. She didn't have $40,000 to start the business. So what did she do? Well, it was the early days again of Facebook advertising. So what she did was she went on Facebook, and what she would do is for any girl in Vancouver or Victoria who changed her status from single to engaged would see an ad for Urban Lens Photography. So she spent her last $500 on Facebook advertising, and she booked over $100,000 worth of weddings from that. And she took 50% deposits. So she ended up with about $50,000 in cash in her bank, and Urban Lens Photography went on to great success. So, she was entrepreneurial, and she wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then a few years after that, she emailed me and said she was very proud of herself. She had managed to save up enough money to buy a condo in downtown Vancouver. Not a very big one, but nevertheless, Vancouver's market is a very tough market for first-time homebuyers. And she has a rule. It's so small, the place that she bought, I think it was under 400 square feet. The place she bought, she has a rule. She's not allowed to bring anything into the condo. She's not able to buy anything and bring it in, anything, furniture, lamps, whatever, books, unless she takes something out. So she just wants to keep it as uncluttered as possible. So when people say, well, I would start my real estate business or my personal business for life business, except, I have no financing. I think that's an excuse. There's tons of financing available. You just have to be a little bit more entrepreneurial than maybe you want to be. So what is soft capital? Soft capital is a loan from mom or dad or rich Uncle Buck. I did a deal with one of my daughters. She bought her first home. She needed $100,000. She put in $5,000, and I put in $95,000. And she said, but Dad, it's still 50-50. Now that's kid arithmetic, right? And of course it is 50-50. So I partners with Miriam in a property, and that's the way it goes. How do you start a personal business for life? A lot of people, still the number one source of capital for a business startup is home equity loans. You can often get money from future customers, as Jennifer Schweers did, or from tenants. I mean, deposits, that's what they are. You can sometimes get trade credit too. So some of my clients who are doing a renovation, say the renovation is $80,000, they say to their contractor, look, is it okay if I pay you $30,000 down, $30,000 when the job is finished, and I owe you the 20? Right? So, and I'll pay that off $1,000 a month for 20 months. And as long as you tell them up front, you've heard me say this before, they're usually okay with that sort of thing. And they become like a strategic partner for you. Some of the other things I really like in Canada is the small business loan lending program. They have a similar one in the United States, where you can get money from a chartered bank or a bank, which is in part government guaranteed, and it's used for improvements, usually leasehold improvements or equipment. Sponsorship is a huge undervalued source of capital. For example, the Bell Sensplex, which is a public-private partnership in Ottawa, has 4 ice pads and a field turf. They do about $600 or $650,000 a year in sponsorship, including the naming rights. So it's called Bell after Bell Canada, the Bell Sensplex, and it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars of found income. I use that over and over again. Even for residential real estate, you can usually find somebody who'll sponsor something, right? And then people are supplementing their income by doing consulting. If they have to, they're bringing in partners or investors. ESOP stands for Employee Stock Ownership Plan. I think Robert Kiyosaki said that his very first condo he bought in Honolulu was done on credit cards. That's always a bit scary, but as long as you can pay it back, it's okay, I guess. Script, you've heard me talk about that. Basically, Canadian Tire money. Crowdfunding, you saw what Ryan North has done. Seller take-back financing is a big one in real estate for people who need some help. You ask the seller to provide some of the financing, and you have to do a lot of work yourself. That's called sweat equity. Just to change tax a little bit so that you can absorb some other information that I think will be useful to you, especially in real estate. This is my friend Eric Kuhn, who unfortunately passed away last year in 2016. And when I had breakfast with him in London, England, one morning, he told me, Bruce, leisure is the new infrastructure. Half the time when Eric talks, I have no idea what he's talking about. But about a couple of years later, when I visited this cafe in Renfrew, I was giving a keynote speech in Renfrew. I did finally discover what he meant. Okay, and so you know where I'm going with this. You've heard it before. You've got a place like this. This is a remodeled former petrol station where you've got some outdoor activity here where you can sit and you can, enjoy a coffee and eat a sandwich. Apparently very good sandwiches here. But if you look around at the parking lot, it's virtually empty. It's just, an acre and a half of empty asphalt. And so the question I asked is, if you added something like an activity, like a beach volleyball court, would you sell more sandwiches? I think you would. So every time you do a project, whether it's an office building, a shopping center, coffee shop, your residential rental. Okay, whenever you do a project, add some leisure uses and listen to Eric Kuhn. Leisure is the new infrastructure. 30, 40, 50 years ago, when we wanted to do economic development in a part of town, we'd build a new road. You put some more water mains and sewers in. Today, adding leisure uses is the infrastructure that gets your economy going. Something else that'll help you is, making sure that you're part of a worldwide phenomenon, which is lifetime learning. Think about me at 54, 55 years of age, going back to school to get my real estate broker's license, 8 courses and 8 exams. I think even in my 60s now, I'm learning as much as I ever did, right? And here's a gentleman who went back to school. Apparently, I think he was in his 70s to go and learn how to read and write. So you're never too old to learn, and lifetime learning is certainly an important thing that we should all be thinking about. Just a couple other little things that I believe in is we have to empower our young people. If you want to keep the most important and valuable resource in your community at home, it's your kids. That's it. I mean, if they're not going to go down the road to Toronto or Chicago or LA or Mumbai or Shanghai, you want to keep them in a little town like Ottawa. You gotta empower them. And I know most people won't agree with me, but I think teens at 16, we should finish high school at 16. We should empower them to vote, and we should try and engage them. The high school dropout rate in many parts of North America is atrocious and has to be addressed. A lot of my friends have taken over the schooling of their children. They want to encourage them to, look at learning as an adventure rather than as a chore. I think 4 of my 5 kids went to the Canterbury School, High School for Arts. This is just a play that they put on a few years ago, and these kids they run around Canterbury High School. They have to do all the normal regular curriculum, and then they do their art. Music, writing, directing. acting, dance. I'm sure I'm missing a few graphic arts, right? And these kids, they just don't have any time to. Well, I suppose they always have time to get into trouble, but mostly they're just good kids, just running around supercharged up. And it's my theory that we should have a Canterbury School for the arts and for the technological arts and for manual arts. I mean, we should have schools that charge up our kids, not where they don't look at it as expensive babysitting, where you just go and you sit with your head in your hands because you're hungover or you're stoned. Is this a good time to start your own business? I think, as you know, this is a fantastic time. There's never been a better time. In Ontario, you can start your own business. You can register for $61. $61. You can build a free website, right? You can get a free website. It doesn't have to be much. So it's and the marketing. You saw what Jennifer could do. Jennifer Schwers could do with $500 on Facebook advertising. It's fantastic. I like this. New marketing today is any marketing tactic that relies on earning people's interest instead of buying it. I think that's it. The number one thing in life, I think, is trust. And new marketing has to be authentic. It has to, obviously grab people's interest, and it has to be educational and funny. Just as a prediction, if you are an English speaker, you're in good stead here because it's virtually unstoppable. I think there's over 100 million people in China learning English as a second language. I don't know that any other language is going to supplant English anytime soon. You know that I believe that for most of us, we have no retirement fund, and so there's no retirement. I'm on the Freedom 85 plan. This is me on the right of your screen, thinking about my future at 65. I'll work until I fall over, right? But what a time it is to be alive. If you're a kid or a baby, I think it's there's never been a better time to be alive and to go into business and to do things that are really extraordinary. I mean, if you think about somebody like Elon Musk, what he's doing with SpaceX, what he's done with Tesla, what he might do with the Hyperloop, right? Wow. I mean, it's not just a 140 character invention. Twitter is kind of okay, I guess, but it is what it is. But imagine the stuff that Elon's doing and the stuff that this kid could do. So great days ahead. All right, I got a little assignment for you to do. You don't have to do it, obviously, but here we are. Say you're thinking of buying a small retail plaza, okay? So you're going to buy a building that looks like this. You've got some really good tenants on the ground floor, but you're having a problem with the walk-up space on the second floor, right? It's hard to rent. Lease rates are not very good. Vacancies are hard. Probably tenants are turning over. They're going bankrupt all the time. So you're really struggling with it. What do you do? Hey, this is me, by the way. This is a character of me. I think one of my students sent it to me. You remember learning about this in Prof Bruce class or video years ago, that you could add ground floor space and a feature stair and reception area on the ground floor and a sign outside, so you could make the second floor office feel like it's as if it's a retail space, right? So somebody can walk in at the main level, meet a receptionist at the main level, and then walk up a feature stair, and there is a beautiful office, and it has street level access, right? So here's the situation, the current condition, right? The ground floor, you have a 10,000 square foot retail plaza. It's renting out at $22 a square foot triple net. Triple net, as you know, in commercial means net of operating costs, net of property taxes, and net of utilities, i.e. the tenant pays all of that. So you're doing pretty well with your ground floor space. It has a fairly low vacancy rate of 5%. But the second floor is not doing very well. You're only getting $8, and most of it is vacant. Your vacancy rate is almost half, 40%, right? So that's the current condition. But after you have applied your differentiator, your secret sauce, right, you've got a little less space on the ground floor. Instead of 10,000, you've got 9,250, right, because 750 square feet is being used up to provide these new entrances to the upstairs. You're still getting your $22. You're still at your 5% vacancy. But now look at what happened on the second floor. Your vacancy rate went down from 40% to 8%, and your rent went up from $8 to $20, right? A little less space available there as well because of the piercings of the floor plate. So what happened to your cap rates, right? So I actually put this spreadsheet into Dropbox, and I'm sorry you're going to have to stop the video here. You're going to have to actually write it down somehow or type it in. It'll take you a while to do, but there you go. You can actually download that spreadsheet and you can calculate it out if you want to. And I think you should. You know, it shows you the power of differentiation and innovation in every business. And real estate, as you know, has had very little invention for 25 years. This is something I wanted to change through this series. And again, I apologize it's so long, but it is what it is, right? You can watch this at your own speed. So if you want to, you can actually download that spreadsheet and send your answers to me, bruce.firestone at century21.ca. I'd love to hear from you. And we're going to take a break.